Hello and welcome to today's show. We are in an exciting place because butterflies are the universal symbol of freedom. You all know that. And butterflies are free. There's a movie and all that. But we also have butterflies inside us, that little gestation where we go in the chrysalis and we come out and they're wet at first, but then when the sunlight dries them, they get to fly to freedom. Today, we're talking about a new book that I am enchanted with. We've got the privilege of publishing Sheri Mandell's book, and it's called The Butterfly Within. Sheri Mandell, thank you for being on the show with us today. We're excited to have you. Tell us what made you decide to write this great, grand, and terrific book, because your thinking is different and experience is different than anyone else's.
It was really an accident, Mark. I never set out to write a book. I was journaling my way through my own life using the tarot cards as a framework for looking at my life in a different way. And all of a sudden, the whole thing kind of exploded into this amazing journey, including tarot and AI and you. And here we are today talking about a chapter of my life that I thought was the darkest, yet turned to be the brightest. So thank you.
Well, I believe that every problem, if you go into it deep, it has its own solution inside. And you were trying to solve loneliness, but it's a different kind of loneliness than anybody else ever had. So could you talk to that, please?
I think today the difference in loneliness is it's not necessarily loneliness about being around people, right? We're all connected to people in different ways than we ever have been before, yet we're not connected to people anymore. We don't have those deep conversations. Is there somebody that you can really call when your world's falling apart? Or do you always have to put on that beautiful butterfly mask and makeup and be that person that your Instagram says you are? Where can you relax and be yourself, right? It's coming home to who you really are, not the person that you let the world meet most of the time.
Well, it's interesting. I teach that leadership is storytelling to influence others, but it has to start by you influencing you to your highest, your best, your noblest. And what you said is that so many of us put on a facade, a fake mask. And what you need to do is talk to yourself once in a while in the mirror and say, well, wait a second, what am I really thinking here? What is in my mind? What is in my heart? What is in my soul? So you're teaching mindfulness. First of all, before I go into the real depth of the question, what is mindfulness? Because a lot of people watching, I've got a mind and it's full. It's telling me, as a matter of fact, it's probably full of junk, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's the problem, right, Mark? Our minds are so full of junk, and mindfulness is really about emptying all that garbage that we tell ourselves, all the stories that we tell ourselves and about our world every day, and getting quiet enough to listen to what our body knows. The body knows what the mind doesn't always want to tell us. You know what I mean? We don't have to believe everything the mind tells us. The body knows, and it shows us in different ways, like with our aching backs and our shoulders and our neck hurts and all of these things. That's our stress coming out because we're not living our true selves.
I want to go a little deep on that, if you don't mind. First of all, how is it that you get into this nice quietude, this silence? Because I wrote a quote a long time ago: "Silence is gold in my mouth. I'm a holding," and I said that you really need 10 to 15 minutes of silence every day, which you've done. So, and when you do it, you start to explore who you are, because when you know who you are and whose you are, and you go deep enough, you can't be lonely. So, talk to that if you don't mind.
Well, that's really it, right? It's getting quiet enough to ask yourself the question, who am I? And then taking it a step further, who am I and what do I want? And a lot of people say, I can't get quiet. I can't sit. I can't still my mind. And I get that. So, okay, there's other ways. There's mantras, right? Coming back to a specific thought. But also, mindfulness can be sitting in your garden, planting seeds, and doing anything that's repetitive. For me, a lot of times I'll go into ceramics. I love playing with clay and working with my hands and smoothing it, and just anything that brings you into the present moment and not into the mind of what should I be doing? What didn't I do? Because every thought is about the past or the future. And when we stay right here and we're connected, there's no room for being lonely because,
I
like you
love
said, we're with ourselves.
it. When I was doing the giant seminars, we had 4,000 people a weekend, 40 weekends a year. I'd always pair bond people because we had them for 3 days. And first of all, we had them sitting quiet, just what you're saying, and explore who am I. And then they had to write it, but then they had to put their journal down and sit with somebody like you and I are face to face right now. And I say, who are you? You know, cancel that. We start out with what do you want? Because most people find out who they are by what they want. And at first, I want a new car. I want a house. I want a wife. I
Right.
want a husband. I want 4 kids. What, all that. I want a refrigerator. I want new rugs. But by the time you hit 50, you find out, whoa, there is an invisible part of me, a transcendent part of me, a godly part of me, something bigger, higher, and better than I'm dealing with. And here's what I really want to dedicate my life force energy. And here's what I'm passionately on purpose about. And here's what my
Absolutely.
destiny is, which is you're dealing with people's destiny. So talk to how you discovered AI could bring you to the destiny. I know I've done a long setup, but I hope that's not too much of a setup for you.
Well, first of all, AI was a surprise to me. Like it was such a random event that started this snowball that really changed my life. I was playing with it. Like I had used AI for little things like help me write a letter to the school board, blah, 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 right? Like we all use it for that. But I was on Instagram, or maybe it was TikTok, I don't remember, and people were like using it for astrology and they were asking it deeper questions. And I, when I'm not in school, have a lot of time on my hand, and I've always been fascinated with tarot. So I started picking up my cards and I had no clue what they meant. So
Okay,
I
let's go
started,
back. What is tarot? First of all, sorry to interrupt,
oh,
but there are
sorry.
people out there. I know it's hard for you to believe, but some of my fans and your new friends never
Hi,
heard of tarot.
friends.
They don't know what it is. So forgive me for interrupting, but please, and then we'll pick up.
Okay, tarot is generally for most people, you go to a tarot reader and they tell you your future based on a set of cards that interpret like our big existence in the world and then our daily life, you know? So you can ask questions and then look at the cards, and the cards will tell you things about your destiny. But for me, I use the cards as a reflection because the first 22 cards of a tarot deck are called the major arcana. And that major arcana kind of mirror the arc of cycles in our life. Like, for example, card 0 is the fool. And before any journey, there's a jumping off point, right? And we have to get enough courage to jump off. And then as we go through this arc, we hit our obstacles and having enough faith in ourselves and working through them. And then we hit this tower moment, right, where all of these things come crashing down and we have to make ourselves take a direction, you know what I mean? And how we handle it. And then eventually we see the sun and we see the light, and that journey comes to somewhat of an end, and we're asked to step off another cliff, right? And the cycle just keeps going on and on.
Right. So how did AI, tarot, and you figure out there's a healing journey intrinsic to this?
Well, asking questions, right? Because in spirituality, in any mindfulness activity, the real question isn't why is this happening to me, right? It's what am I supposed to learn from this? And this is kind of the same cycle. Asking questions, but I didn't know what questions to ask. So that's where AI came in. You know, the first question it ever asked me was, what cliff do you need to jump off of that you're afraid to take that leap? And it just put it in a different way than I had ever thought about it, leading me to discover different patterns that I felt back in each of these different scenarios, because they're my comfort zone, right? Like, you know, ooh, I don't want to sit in that quiet place and think about that. See you, bye. You know what I mean? And it's really hard for us to get quiet and sit there, but looking at it through the lens of tarot with the help of AI asking me to ask questions I didn't know to ask, like, well, you know what I mean? Like, wow,
It
it
wakes up,
just,
it illuminated you from the inside out. When you and Crystal and I had dinner, and that's what you said, is that, all of a sudden all the lights start to turn on because you get new questions. Yeah. And here's the thing, as you know, we wrote the book Ask: The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your
right.
Destiny, bestseller. But the point is, we said that the question is always the answer. So, Einstein
Yes,
spent 55 minutes coming up with the right question, so he had 5 minutes to figure out the answer. Because if you don't ask the right question, like, because I teach poverty and abundance, people say, "Oh my God, what if I go bankrupt?" Wrong question. You'll figure out how to go. Right question is,
right.
how do I get rich? Right question is, back to your first question, is, who am I? And then all the ancillary questions, because you aren't your job. You aren't just a mother. You aren't just a wife, which is where we're going here in a second. You are
We're not the roles we play.
exactly, and you are. Everybody is a multi-dimensional person, 360 degrees. You're not, I'm 15 degrees because I'm a wife, a mother, and a babysitter or a house cleaner. Nah, not that that's not important. I'm not, no role is more important than good motherhood. I'm
Yes,
not doing that. What I'm saying though is that a lot of the people watching are let's say they're 50, 60 years old, 40 years old, and the kids are grown, they're out of school. Now you're home alone. You better be asking some new questions. Isn't that what you found? Because you didn't. Loneliness is a
absolutely.
cellular problem, as I understand what you're saying.
Well, you know, as a mom, as a dad, right? As anybody who is a caregiver to any degree, you learn to put other people's needs first.
Right.
And as a stay-at-home mom, where my role was to take care of the house and the family and the husband and the jobs of that, my needs quickly got put into the back burner. So 25 years later or so, let's not, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what makes me happy? Who am I now? I'm not mom. I'm not wife. I'm not carpool driver. I'm not PTA this. I'm not all the roles that I played anymore. And what is it that drives me in this next chapter to make me fulfilled? And that goes back to what you said earlier. You get to a point in your life is, what's my dharma, right? What is my role in this life that's going to take what I'm so good at that nobody else in this world can do exactly the way that I do it,
Your destiny.
and put it together with something that can help other people? And that's working without feeling like you're working, and that's living a life of dharma, right? Of putting it all together and making the world a better place.
Yeah, because we're all supposed to be fulfilled. I want to do an aside here that may not be fair to you, but because I've talked to one of your ex-husbands, and your ex-husband not only still loves and cherishes you, even though you're not in conjugal bliss, but is helping you. Would you just talk to that for a second? Because there's a lot of people out there saying, "Well, I can't get along with my ex." Blah, blah,
I
blah,
didn't
blah,
for
blah.
a really long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But talk about that, because he's helping
Stages,
us with publicity. He's helping us with everything. So it's sort of under my.
stages. We went through that circle where we could come back around and be friends. You know, a lot of time, a lot of good conversations, some apologies, I must say, and some, wisdom, right? With age comes wisdom. And you look back and you think, maybe now I wouldn't have handled that quite the same. For me, the words that came out of my mouth sometimes were were probably exactly what I felt, but probably should have been softened as to help him hear what I was saying instead of react to what I was saying, right? Which goes back to hitting the nerve, reverting back into our old patterns and trying to survive. And I made him feel like he had to survive a lot, and vice versa. Doesn't work that way for a happy marriage. So
No, but the point is you're past it. So how did you decide tarot, and what happened when you started integrating AI and tarot?
I didn't decide it, Mark. It just, I sat back one day and was looking at my journal, and I kind of chuckled to myself thinking, here is this tarot, which is ancient wisdom. I mean, think about how many thousands of years people have been playing with tarot cards, and this newfangled, if you will, AI that is taking the world by storm and changing it in ways we don't even know yet. And here comes me kind of quite innocently asking it questions that completely change the person that I am. And I thought, it's just weird enough that maybe other people will think, I want to try that, and will do something they've never done before that will make that difference in their life, that they can start spreading their wings and fly and live life instead of just existing in a life that they don't know how to live anymore because they've lost who they truly are.
Well, that's why I love the title, The Butterfly in You, because everyone knows, well, maybe they don't know. I don't know how much they know about biology, but the biology of it is a butterfly starts out as this little caterpillar that's crawling around. And then because my little daughter was becoming a veterinarian, we had anise on our little house estate, and we had to put cloth over it, cover shield, so the birds wouldn't come and eat it, right? Because what it does, it lays its little eggs and it starts spinning and it gets this little nest. Who would ever believe that a crawling bug would go into this chrysalis, which is what you're calling the silence, right? And go into the
Yes.
silence and find out who they really are. So they come out this magnificent. I've even got a whole thing of butterflies over there. As one of the beautiful things that we've collected. I got to climb Machu Picchu,
Oh,
down in
wow.
Peru, and I got to see the future portal and the past portal and do all the esoteric spiritual stuff. So it was like a very trippy experience. And I'd encourage you, if you're going to go, make sure you get a Sherpa that is extraordinarily high and would be in the transformational process. I just go one step further. I know there's your interview rather than mine. I've never
Oh,
written about
please,
this.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah. So we're at the very top, and I brought 58 people in my inner circle with us, and some of them didn't qualify because I said, look, you got to bag 10 mountains. You don't go bag this first. And if you're living here in Arizona, you got to bag Camelback. If you're in California, Temescal Canyon, and then you go to the waterfall and all that stuff. Beautiful stuff, but you got to earn your wings. Well, somebody didn't, and this guy, this woman said, I got to do it. I've spent my whole life here, and I'm 57, and she hadn't paid her dues. I said, you can't go. And he somehow floated her up. He what do you call it? Levitation. That's the only way she could have gotten up, because it's a Boston Marathon every day for 5 days walking, and there's no other. Anyhow, we get to the top, and he said, I got one other thing for you because you've been so good to all these people. And I said, okay. So we go to a rock, and the rock has two images cut into it. Our bird, in America, is the eagle. And right next to the eagle in equal space, 50-50, 4,000 years ago, they carved the condor. And this guy's a total Peruvian. And he said, Mark, you're the one that's going to put the North America and South America together for the first time. And I go, excuse me? I
Big
have a lot to do in my life,
responsibility.
but I want to be world's best-selling author, but and I'll gladly now, because you've inspired me, because you're a transformative person. You transformed you, and before you can help anyone else transform, you got to transform yourself. So talk about how you're now going to help other people transform. They're going to read the book. They're going to understand they got a butterfly in them. They come out of I got to be careful. We might be misjudging our readership and listenership here today all over the world, but A lot of them feel like a caterpillar because I'm only a wife, I'm only a mother, I don't have any money, I don't have any whatever, right? Take us through how they're going to read this book and get transformed, please. What's going to happen?
Well, I know for myself, the hardest thing in the dark days is taking that first step,
Yep.
knowing what to do to get yourself out of that place of just wanting to stay in bed or whatever your place is, right? And I really hope that this book allows somebody to take a step that they wouldn't normally take. You know, it's really hard to go to the farmer's market by yourself every week. But you know what? When you take that step and you get out and you see the same honey vendor or the same apple person, you start making connections and it becomes a joyful experience that leads you to more joy. And we all know to do these things, but sometimes you just need a little push. And knowing that I was there in the same place that you are, perhaps, and as hard as it excuse me, as hard as it is to take that step and get dressed, put a little lipstick on, and get out to the farmer's market, to the pool, to anywhere that gets you out meeting people. Those are the steps that I outline in the book through ChatGPT, giving me the suggestions to do it. So I hope people can take that step and therefore, open that cocoon a little bit at a time so their wings are strong enough to fly.
Right. Oh, I like that. Wings are strong enough to fly. So everybody gets sucked into their patterns and they don't even know their patterns until they read a book like yours, and they're going to transcend their own life, look down on it, see it for the first time. What's the biggest pattern you had to break?
Oh my God, the biggest pattern I had to break was just reacting. Somebody would say something, and the first thing that came into my mind would come out, or the first, like tears would come out, or, whatever it was. But, something I teach the kids. And teaching the kids gave me a lot of reflection at the same time, right? But there's stop, STOP, stop your body, try to breathe, observe your feelings, and peacefully proceed. It's that
Ooh.
observing your feelings part that I never could quite get, that I realized through the journaling, through the arc of the tarot, that was my go to, right? Like, oops, react, oops, I reacted. And I would feel horribly sometimes for the things that I would say or do out of fear, out of, being my safety for protection that I've always had to show myself. We all have those things that we bring with us that come out when certain buttons are pushed and we react. And for me, that was absolutely the biggest thing that I had to learn.
First of all, thank you for learning it. Second of all, ladies and gentlemen, because I've read her book and I think the world of my dear friend Sheri, and as does my wife and our son who's running this today, Preston. Here's the deal, though: is that what happens is your book is going to light the candle, and the principle is, uh, my favorite president Thomas Jefferson said, "Look, if your candle's been blown out by life, you've been rejected, you got hurt, you got divorced, you went bankrupt, you got fired, whatever reason you've got your candle not lit, my candle's lit, and this book is going to light your candle. If my candle's lit, light yours on mine. Doesn't take anything from mine. This will not do anything for you except open up the world. It's going to be fourfold brighter, and you're going to end up writing letters to Sheri like, at our zenith, we're getting 5,000 thank you letters a day for chicken soup. So I really, and our mail's inundated. And at first, Jack and I did everything we could to answer every letter, but you can't. After a while, you know, they get in bunches, and we knew what they were going to say, and we did form letters just because it had a. And thank God, electric computing decided to help us. So
Well,
your book
please
is going
God,
to.
Mark, please God.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to get out of loneliness with this book. You're going to get out of pattern diminishment to pattern. I'm going to put in a new word, replace a replenishment. How's that? Would you accept that?
Yeah, yeah. You're going to replenish your mind and your body to make different choices.
Yeah, because you can't help anyone else unless you are helped. In other words, you can't give a hand out if you got nothing to give, right? But you can give a hand out and a hand up, which is more important than a handout. And with this book is one of the best hand ups on the planet, because what it does, it has you decide in favor of your side. You decide that you're going to be the butterfly that transforms from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. And you wouldn't be
Absolutely.
watching a show like this unless you wanted to be somewhere better, bigger, healthier, happier, more full of love, joy, abundance, and be able to source and serve others, because everyone is here to not just take care of yourself, but do so well that you take care of everybody else in a click. How's that? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and you have to, for me, it's always been teach what you need to learn, right?
Right.
And it took me so long to understand a lot of things that I was reading, right? But when I got out and started teaching it and speaking it, and people started bringing it back to me, there were so many things in my own personal life that it would be, oh my gosh, I finally get it. I get it. I get it. And just that's what I hope the book does for people. I get it. I can finally take that step. I can finally make that change. I can finally get out of the house and be the person I want to be, or get out of whatever is your cocoon. My cocoon was my house. I was very comfortable here. I had my little dog. I didn't need anybody or anything else. But I did, right? Like, you can
Doesn't everybody
only
need other
be,
people?
say that again?
Doesn't everybody need other people?
You do. But sometimes it's easy to talk yourself out of believing that you need other people because you don't feel worthy of being around other people, and you talk yourself into thinking it's okay to be by yourself. And that's the cycle that I hope that people break. It is, people need people. They just do.
And you say they don't just need their cell phone to cuddle with. Talk to that, because Crystal and I say that the most disconnected people in the world are like, we go into a restaurant, we see all the little teenage kids and sometimes younger. Parents don't understand that you've got to shut off the phone, or you can't be. It's a disconnection, not a connection. It looks like a connection, but it's really a bad babysitter. So would you talk to that, please?
It's a temporary connection, right? Because you feel connected in that moment to whatever clip you're watching because you identify with the cute dog or the cute dress or whatever it is that you're scrolling through. But then when you do take that time and shut the phone down, again, you have to ask that question, who am I? So the immediate gratification of fulfilling the brain with different clips of joy or happiness or whatever you're trying to be, you step back and there's that quietness, and you don't, again, know who you are. So you're going to say, oh, in that video clip, she did XYZ. I'm going to do that too. I like the way that is. And then you're taking all these steps away from who you really are, what really makes you happy. I like to use this example because it's so simple, but if I live in an area that everybody despises the color pink, I'm definitely not going to be telling people I really love pink. It's my favorite color. And so when people ask me what my favorite color is, I'm going to say blue or green because I don't really want people to know I like pink, because, gosh, what are they going to think of me right off the bat if I like pink? So we start moving away from those things that really fill us with joy. And that's what I think scrolling does for us.
Perfect. So talk to me about why you picked this great title about a butterfly.
Well, I have a butterfly tattoo on my back first. And the song, I don't even remember what the name of the song is actually, but the lyric, I'm a butterfly free to fly, from Elton John, has
Mm-hmm.
always stuck with me And what I love and what I've spoke to a minute ago is that this insect, right, goes into this cocoon like the hermit goes into quiet and slowly pokes out of this cocoon. And every poke strengthens its wings, right? Strengthens our heart, strengthens our self esteem, strengthens us as the butterfly wings get strengthened until they can break open the cocoon and fly out into the world. And that's the book, The Butterfly in You. Break out of that cocoon, tiny pieces by tiny pieces, so that you're strong enough to walk out in the world and live with joy at whatever age you are.
I, I don't know enough about the chrysalis and how many times it's got to beat, but I can tell you eggs, because we used to have 88 chickens on 1 acre, which is sort of nuts. But as my little daughter was becoming a vet, and a chicken has to hit exactly the same place on an egg 28 times before it comes out. And if it doesn't, it won't have a strong enough neck to stay alive and pick up stuff. So it works exactly the same way. I have to assume all of Mother Nature is that way. The problem is the solution. The adversity is the advantage if you look at it with a little bit of wisdom and eclectic. So, what is the
Absolutely.
take home that you want everyone to have when they read your book?
Well, gosh, I mean, I have to say this first after listening to you just talk about the chicken and thinking about the butterfly. And I think so much of the time we forget that we are nature too. And maybe the universe puts those struggles in our way so that we can end up being the most perfect form of a human being that we can be. We all have to go through trials and tribulations to become the best us, you know?
Yeah, when I went bankrupt in 1973 and 4, I thought, holy cow, my life's over. And luckily that got me out of that into speaking, which got me into writing, which got me into publishing so I could meet you and do this book. And we're going to take it to the top. You're going to take it to the top. I got to go back to where before we began, because now you're strong enough and feel you were scared to come on this show. And yet now that we've transformed it, talk about how you went through the fear, because you were not resistant, but you were scared that you could blow it, or I would blow it, or I would ask to go for your jugular, or whatever it
Right.
is. And now
You
you're
know,
laughing at all that.
never doing something before, right? But that's
Yeah.
what life is about, is not letting that fear stop you. That is another lesson, right? We talk ourselves out of things that haven't even happened yet because we tell ourselves, oh, Mark's going to ask me a question and I'm not going to know how to answer it. I'm going to sit on this live stream without anything to say, right? Like, really, do you think I could ever be anywhere and not have something to say, first of all? But I'm telling myself this.
But that's why I said to Crystal, I mean, we sat with you at dinner. And I said, I, I can put you on any podcast. We're going to put you on a lot now, because now you're a full fledged podcastee.
Seasoned.
You're seasoned. You're dangerous, and people are going to watch this and say, "Will you come on my podcast?" And you got to make those decisions who you'll go on and do, because there's 2 million of them, and there are a lot of people watching this around the world, and you're going to have fun. The people are nice by and large, and the people that aren't, you just say, "Well, you could pretend like you're Clint Eastwood, and if they ask him a question he doesn't want, he just stands up and walks off stage." So that's the worst case, but I don't see that as ever happening for
I
you.
hope not.
No, by the way, it's another story, right? Because you're here to be
Right,
challenged.
right,
I've
right.
never walked off the stage without being able to have an answer for somebody. And, having talked to 7,000 talks in 80 countries around the world, sometimes I can't understand their languaging. So it's really tough, right? Even interpreter, and I'm going mentally, I'm not sure what he or she said, but I think this is the question you asked. And if that's it, I'm going to answer this way.
I'm going to
But
answer it like this, and I hope it works for you.
yeah, if it doesn't, write me a note and I'll write you a note back. I'll write you a note back.
Right? Aw.
Okay, so what are the two or three biggest takeaways as we conclude today? What are the three biggest takeaways they're going to get? First of all, they're going to know about you. Second of all, they're going to know about tarot cards. Third, they're going to know we're going to eradicate loneliness at every level, because they're going to know the silence is their strength, right?
Right. Well, I think something that's really important is that the book takes you through an arc, right? first you have to be willing to step off the cliff. You have to be willing to look at yourself. You have to make some personal transformation to come out of the other side of whatever it is that you're trying to deal with in your life. And that's the hope, that people can step into a journey and come out of the other side feeling joy. You know, I just want people to be happy with life. I lived so long in the dark, Mark, and being happy and smiling and knowing who I am, and saying, you know what? If you don't like me, that's okay. And being secure that not everybody's going to like me is what made me come on and talk to you today, right? Like, because I'm an acquired taste, right, Mark? And
I, I think it's a good acquired taste. Crystal, I think the world of you. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know what that picture is up in the upper right-hand corner as I look at the screen, so I assume you're getting it the same as we are. That's the cover of her book, which is absolutely spectacular,
oh,
which absolutely has a young lady ready to walk into the light. Remember, oh, there it is. Preston has put
yes,
the cover
thank
up
you.
because notice the butterflies are there, the dog's there. She is just ready to elevate, escalate, go up the elevator of,
Ready to fly, Mark, ready to fly.
yeah. And
Spread
all
her
of you out
wings.
there need to fly at a higher level, or you wouldn't be watching it. And I don't know that you've seen all the answers down below, but everybody's falling in love with you already. So you've got a whole new fan club, and some of them are
Aw,
going to write you and say, "Will you sign my book, please?" And do you have a?
please do.
Are you going to go start talking everywhere? And if you are, how do they write you, or how do they write you to make sure just straight to you rather than just to the publisher, so they can bring you out to talk to their group or whatever?
They could go on my website, sherimandell.com official, something like that. I don't even know what my own website is, Mark. I apologize. I apologize.
You'll find it if you type in Sheri space Mandel and just hit that. It'll
Yes,
come back to her official
yes,
website, and
yes.
you'll get there. Any other final concluding mark you'd like to make to all the people watching around the world?
I just want to say one thing. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm holding my crystals in my hands, and, because it goes back to that of feeling of needing to be connected, right? To something. Like you said, I had to walk through the fear to get here. And these crystals gave me the energy and the power to sit and face you. No, it was wonderful. And I just really want everybody, whether it's through the butterfly in you or this conversation, that you go out and just take that one step into flying, to learn that just got to take a little step. Just a little step will make all the difference in the world. And I hope your step is buying my book. But for you, whatever it is, take a step. Don't stay in the dark any longer. Living is a lot more fun.
And we have Sheri's marquee up. If you could put that up again, it's that's your official site,
Oh, thank you for
SheriMandelOfficial.com.
that.
So Preston is a magical marvel, and I'm just thankful that he's our superstar techie hidden behind this.
Yes, thank you, Preston.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun to be with you again. I hope for your sake you get her book. You're going to thank me in your prayers as you read it, and it has you
Thank you.
transform and get out of caterpillarness into butterflyness so you can fly high. Sheri, it's been a delight to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity, and I love what you did with the book. Thank you so much for all your team's efforts. I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very
We
much.
appreciate you. Until next time, everybody, this is your friend Mark Victor Hansen. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.